مسعد, thank you so much for joining us on The Record.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to be with you.
So you've just come back from Saudi Arabia. You're here in the UAE. You described those conversations as fruitful. What does fruitful actually mean?
Yeah, it's been quite fruitful. It's in the context of the Sudan and the Quad.
Yes.
So we've been holding, as you know, for several months now, continuously engaging with members of the Quad and others. Besides the Quad, which is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, and Egypt, and the US, other countries are helping, as you know, including Turkey and Qatar and the UK and Norway and others. So we've been engaging with everybody, including our partners within the Quad. And we had some fruitful meetings in this context.
Tell me, what is the end game for the US in Sudan?
As President Trump clearly expressed, the humanitarian crisis is very bad. It's the world's biggest humanitarian catastrophe. And this must end. This must end quickly. So the end game is really to, first of all, to get through a humanitarian truce, which is a temporary ceasefire, and then ultimately a permanent ceasefire and a political transition to a civilian-led government.
What is the role, in your mind, of the Gulf countries here? Is it going to be a humanitarian? Is it going to be economic stability? And frankly, are we going to see a situation where various, actors are going to have to put boots on the ground?
We're not looking at that right now, but definitely members of the Quad and others, as I said, including Qatar, have a serious role to play. First of all, it's political. That's the first aspect of this. And then the humanitarian aspect is a huge aspect. And in fact, on the humanitarian side, we're in the process of organizing a pledging conference, which will be held very soon in the coming couple of weeks, where we're trying to establish a fund and raise some considerable amounts that can be used directly towards the humanitarian crisis that we're seeing today, especially in Al-Fashir, but in many other cities besides Al-Fashir. So that's on the humanitarian side. On the political side, it's very, very important. As we know, there are two sides to this conflict, and there are different countries supporting each side.
Yeah.
And we need that political goodwill, and we need those relationships to be able to reach a successful conclusion to these ongoing talks and discussions and negotiations for several months now.
Yeah. What about in Yemen? Yeah. What is the end game for the United States in Yemen today?
Look, we have one objective there, and I think this is a common objective. We share it with our Saudi partners and our Emirati partners and everybody else. Our objective is to fight the Houthis and the other terrorist groups, such as Al-Qaeda and ISIS. So this is the only objective we have. And the aim, of course, is to have a safe and secure navigation and maritime within the Red Sea. And the region as well, of course, because the Houthis' operations are affecting the entire region, all the way up to Israel as well, not just their immediate neighbors, or not just the Red Sea.
Yeah.
So that common objective has not changed. We are focused on that. Of course, there are internal Yemeni issues. We do not get involved in those issues, but we would like to see, and I think this is a common objective as well. We are fully aligned on that. We would like to see a stable Yemen. We would like to see ultimately a united Yemen, and a Yemen free from the Houthis and from Iranian influence, and then from all the other terrorist groups.
Yeah, you mentioned terrorist groups. I have to ask you, at this point, is the administration seriously considering casting the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization?
Yes, as you know, the President Trump has recently signed an executive order to that effect, which directed the Secretary of State and Secretary of Treasury and others within the system to do the necessary administrative work. And we've come towards the end of that threshold. Secretary Rubio just recently announced that there will be some sort of statement coming out very soon. So we're expecting something to come out
in the
coming days.
Tell me this, how do you combat an organization like the Muslim Brotherhood? Because they're not like Al-Qaeda, they're not like the Houthis. Is it going to be something that's an economic sanction? Is it going to be something that has to do with governance? I mean, in your mind, how is the United States going to take on the Muslim Brotherhood?
You know, there's a big angle, as I indicated. For example, the Department of Treasury is involved. So there's a big financial angle, usually, to these organizations. And this organization specifically, as we all know, is widely spread. So it's a big network.
Exactly. It's global.
It's global. And the network is affecting the United States as well, directly.
Yeah.
In fact, there could be some elements directly within the United States, or maybe elements in terms of the financial network. So there could be some links. So the U.S. government will be looking into this, and that's why the Treasury is involved, but also the State Department and other departments. So there are different facets and different angles to this.
This is an administration that's been more willing, if you will, to name and shame, whether it be redesignating the Houthis as terrorists, or talking about Al-Qaeda, or talking about the Muslim Brotherhood, as we just mentioned. In your mind, where does the United States see the bad actors in this part of the world today?
Oh, there are quite a few, and I think President Trump is talking about those on a daily basis. So it's well known and well established, and we're working on all of these fronts. I mean, we have a great team. We have a great. First of all, we have a great leader. We're lucky, and I'm honored to be part of his team and part of this great administration. We have an amazing Secretary of State and National Security Advisor, Secretary Rubio. And the entire team. So we're working day and night on all of these fronts. But the president is quite open about it and quite blunt. So is Secretary Rubio. I mean, we're talking about these things on a daily basis.
Obviously, the president's been very focused on the Western Hemisphere. When he looks at the various issues in the African continent today, it's boiling. What is of the greatest concern to him?
Absolutely, as you said, the African continent is really boiling. There are so many conflicts in so many parts of the continent, starting from the Horn of Africa all the way to the Atlantic. So the Horn itself is absolutely boiling, as we all know, which includes Sudan, but also Somalia and other parts of that region.
Was it helpful for the Israelis to recognize Somaliland?
Well, Somaliland, first of all, is not a new issue. This is an issue that has been pending for decades.
But was it helpful for them to poke the bear?
They were, well, they're free to have these relationships and these partnerships, and the United States so far has not changed its position on Somalia.
Do you expect it to?
For now, our policy is one Somalia. Things may evolve in the future. I can't speculate, but we're continuously looking into these things and assessing these things. But as of now, our policy has not changed. But there's no doubt that what's happening in Somalia, besides the issue of Somaliland, is of big concern to us, because it's not just Al-Shabaab, but it's also ISIS. And they're gaining territory on a regular basis, and there's a very major, big concern of stability issue in the region, but also Ethiopia and other parts of the region, as you know. But then you go all the way through the Sahel to the Atlantic, and that entire region as well is boiling. And not only Niger and Mali and Burkina Faso, but it's affecting the entire sub-region as well, including other neighboring countries such as Chad and others. But it affects neighboring countries to their north and to their south, such as Nigeria. And we've seen what happened in Nigeria recently. So the entire northern Nigeria is affected by what's happening in the Sahel region, but also northern Benin and Togo and
So when you advise the president, as you do, and you have a cornucopia of issues, what's number one on your list?
Right now, our top priority on the continent is Sudan, really. It's mainly because of the humanitarian aspect. I mean, as you know, more than 30 million Sudanese are in dire need of aid today. If
it weren't for the Christians in Sudan, would this country be getting this administration's full concentration?
It has nothing to do with religion. I mean,
doesn't it?
It's a humanitarian crisis. You have over 30 million Sudanese that need food and need medical aid today. You have probably about 10 million refugees, and I say probably because the numbers are varying. In Egypt alone, there are probably anywhere from 5 to 5.5 million new refugees. And there are probably about 3 or 4 million Sudanese that were already in Egypt. In Chad, the numbers are probably anywhere from 1.5 to 2 million refugees. That's Chad alone. But there are refugees all over the place.
But this is an administration that is championing Christian issues in the world in a way that their predecessors haven't.
If you're referring to Nigeria, that's a very, that's a very specific situation, and it's actually quite serious because what's happening in Nigeria is not just the issue of terrorism, because we know that terrorism affects all religions, but it's specifically in the middle belt of Nigeria, where the Fulani herders are coming from the north, and they happen to be Muslims. They are getting into these fights with the farmers in this Middle Belt region who are predominantly Christians. And they are killing hundreds and thousands of them. So this is a very peculiar situation. And we're working very closely now with the Nigerian government, both on counterterrorism and other measures. We have a joint task force. We're working on other measures so that the Nigerian government can put more assets and more focus and more attention on this Middle Belt region, in addition to the northern region that has serious Boko Haram issue, especially in the north central and northeast, and ISIS issue, especially in the northwest. And you've seen the recent strikes there. So it's quite complex, as you know. Nigeria is quite complex, and it's a huge country with a huge population of probably 250 million.
With a lot of oil wealth.
With a lot of oil wealth. I mean, the oil happens to be in the southeast, so it's quite far from where these events are taking place. But it's a very sad situation because hundreds of Christians were getting killed at a time, and probably thousands in any given year in recent years because of these conflicts. Yeah. And our position was that the Nigerian government should have and could have taken more measures, and they have now taken these measures.
At America's instigation.
Which we welcome, which is in their interest. It's in their interest. In Nigeria, those numbers are probably relatively minor in their own context, in a population of 250 million. There are always incidents here and there, but these things can be addressed, and we can see that the figures and the numbers have gone down. So they're now doing a much better job, and we're working closely together on that.
Over the last several administrations, there's been a clear narrative, which is that the United States can no longer afford to be the policeman of the world. In your mind, how do you describe this foreign policy? What is the Trump doctrine?
Peace through strength. But when it comes to some of these situations that we're talking about, they're predominantly counterterrorism issues. I mean, what's happening in the Sahel, for example, is predominantly a counterterrorism issue. The issue in Yemen is counterterrorism. The issue in northern Nigeria is counterterrorism. Even our work in Libya is predominantly counterterrorism work. So this work has never stopped and should never stop. This must always continue. This is not policing. It has nothing to do with policing. It's specifically targeted at those terrorist activities that can affect Europe and the United States and the entire world, and are affecting the entire world. I mean, if you look at Libya, for example, it's been used as a transit route to send tens of thousands of illegal immigrants to Europe, especially Italy and Greece and France and other parts of Europe annually, tens of thousands annually. In addition to other terrorist activities from the Sahel region and other smuggling activities. Yeah. So it's not only immigrants, but drugs. And then you have drugs coming from Latin America to the Sahel region through countries, for example, like Guinea-Bissau. There are aspects of this that are also related to drug smuggling and trafficking. So it's really multifaceted, but most of those activities are predominantly CT related. Yes. Except, I mean, Sudan is a humanitarian issue. It's a big humanitarian issue. The issue in the DRC, for example, or also in the eastern DRC, has a huge humanitarian aspect to it as well. And we just recently participated in a humanitarian conference organized by France. Yes. Where we raised, I think, close to $2 billion just to help the communities in eastern DRC. So there are certain humanitarian causes that are really just and require our attention. Let's not forget that the United States remains today the world's biggest contributor to humanitarian causes and to other sorts of charities. And
in spite of the drawdown in USAID.
Yeah, absolutely. USAID is just, let's call it a restructuring issue. It doesn't mean that aid has stopped.
Switching gears, when you talk about the region, obviously you're advising on the Middle East and on Africa. Obviously, the big issue of the last 2 years has been the war in Gaza. Where are we today in terms of the ceasefire and what partners will be involved in keeping that peace?
Yeah, I think the president has expressed his optimism and definitely his determination to see this through. He clearly announced that we want to move and progress from phase 1 to phase 2, and I think we're ready to do that. The president has put in a lot of effort on this, and he has a huge and very, very effective team, including Jared Kushner and Steve Witkoff and many others, and obviously Secretary Rubio definitely, and the Vice President J.D. Vance, and many other members of the administration has put in thousands and thousands of hours and
Is there a
lot of hard work on this.
On the part of Gulf governments to be involved? I mean, when you speak to the Saudis, when you speak to the UAE and Qatar, I mean, what is the message about what they want to do in Gaza? Yeah,
I mean, of course, Qatar was one of the 4 countries that signed the peace accord in Sharm el-Sheikh, along with Egypt and Turkey and us. So definitely they are a key player.
But have we worked out what exactly their role will be?
Of course, all of these things are being discussed, and a lot of things will be rolled out very soon. As the president announced recently, some announcements will be made soon.
Tell me this, you know, in the Americas, we have the concept of you break it, you buy it. Do you foresee Israel putting money into the rebuilding of Gaza?
I really don't know about these things, but we know that there will be enough funds towards the rebuilding, and we're all working very hard.
So you're not worried about the money when it comes to rebuilding Gaza? We're going to have it.
It's not an issue, yeah. As to which particular country will contribute and the amounts, this will be, I'm sure this will be announced at some point. Okay. But we know that this is not going to be an issue.
Tell me this. Tucker Carlson has called this the age of American imperialism. When you speak to leaders in this part of the world, what are you hearing from them? What are their top concerns?
It's actually President Trump is the president of peace. So whatever they want to label it, they're free to label his doctrine in any way they wish. He's the president of peace. He has resolved so many conflicts and wars, including in this current term, which is less than a year. Within less than a year, he resolved probably 5 or 6 conflicts. And in his previous administration, at least 2 or 3, in addition to the Abraham Accord. So he's the president of peace. the Gaza peace accord was a historic achievement, really, not just for the United States and for President Trump, but for the world. And this is not, and as the president had indicated, it's not only about Gaza, it's about the Middle East. So you now have peace in the Middle East because the 20-point plan is quite it's quite a comprehensive roadmap towards the future, not just the immediate term, but also towards the future.
Yeah. So the focus on the Western Hemisphere is not going to take away America's focus on the Middle East.
Not at all, and he's working now on the Ukraine-Russia conflict. As you know, this is also a terrible war in which tens of thousands are dying on a weekly and monthly basis on both sides. And the president has said clearly that he wants this to end. He's putting in a lot of effort, as you know, towards resolving this conflict. So he's a president of peace, as we've seen. We hope to resolve the Sudan conflict soon. We hope to achieve progress on the Libya unification front, as hopefully also soon. We hope to achieve progress as well on the Sahara issue. And we've seen that, we all know that a couple of months ago there was a historic UN Security Council resolution on that. And we see a very high level of political will and readiness on both sides, both the Algerian and the Moroccan side, but also Mauritania is there, and the Sahrawi people, the Polisario, represented by the Polisario. We see a very strong will towards finding a permanent solution to this 50-year conflict.
So not imperialism peace?
No, I don't see where that would apply.
Masad, thank you so much for joining me on The Record.
Thank you very much.